In this video, I'm gonna show you how to set up Ryujinx, the Nintendo Switch emulator for PC. I'll show you not just the emulator installation process, but also the graphical enhancements you can do, import save files, update your games, and add DLC, mods, and cheats. We'll go through everything in this video step by step so you can play your Switch games on PC. Let's get going. Before anything else, I want to show you the system requirements for this emulator. So it's at least 8 GB of RAM, a GPU that supports OpenGL or Vulkan, preferably Vulkan here for better performance. You're also gonna need the prod keys and the firmware from the Switch that you can get by dumping these files from your Switch, or you can do a Jack Sparrow on the internet, and Windows 10 or higher. You can also play this emulator on Mac and Linux, but this tutorial is for Windows PCs. Any CPU will work on this emulator, but obviously the better the CPU, the better the performance will be. And they also list here a recommended baseline for this emulator. So for the CPU, it is a Ryzen 5 3600. That is a CPU with at least 6 cores and 12 threads. And also a GPU for reference too, a GTX 1060. That is because of the OpenGL and Vulkan requirements right here. And if you don't know if your GPU supports that, you're gonna head over here to this website, techpowerup.com. The link will be on the description. And here on the main page, you're gonna put your mouse here on databases, and you're gonna click on GPU database. And right here on type to search, you're gonna type the name of your GPU right here. And when you see it on the list, you're gonna click on it. And on this page, you're gonna scroll down here a little bit to the bottom, and right here on graphics features, you're gonna see if your GPU can support OpenGL and Vulkan. For this emulator, it's OpenGL 4.5 or Vulkan 1.2, so you're gonna see if your GPU supports that right here. Now to download the emulator itself, you're gonna head over to the official website. The link will be on the description, and here on the main page, you're gonna click on download, and it's going to list the operational systems this emulator is available for. This tutorial, like I said, is for Windows PCs, so you're gonna click here on the download button to get started. Now this is a zip file, so you're gonna have to extract this, and you can use either WinRAR or 7-zip or the extracting tool from Windows 11 if you're doing that, but either way you're gonna have to extract this. So in my case, I'm using 7-zip, so you're gonna right click on this file, select 7-zip, and then click on extract here. You're gonna have this one single folder right here, and you can go ahead and delete the original zip file. We're not gonna need this anymore. So now you're gonna double click on this publish folder, and you're gonna have the emulator files. To start this, you're gonna double click on this Ryujinx application file, but before you do this, we're gonna make the portable version of this emulator. And for that, here on this folder, you're gonna click with the right button, and then you're gonna select new, and then click on folder right here. And the name of this new folder has to be portable, exactly like this. That's all you have to do. So now we're gonna start the emulator. So double click here on Ryujinx. It's gonna take a few seconds to start, and you're gonna see this console window right here. And there you go. We now have the emulator itself. Go ahead and click on OK. We don't have the prod keys on the right place yet. And you're gonna see that inside the portable folder, we're gonna have the extra folders of this emulator all in one place. So it's better because you have everything organized, and you can just move this entire folder if you want to change the location later on. But now here on the emulator, you're gonna notice that you have two windows right here, the console and the emulator window itself. And you have to keep both of them open. If you close this console window, it will close the emulator too. So now back on the portable folder right here, you're gonna double click on the system folder, and this is where you're gonna be placing your prod and title keys. These files are required for this emulator to work, especially the prod keys right here. The title keys is just for some Nintendo eShop games, for some digital games that is, so it's not often required, but the prod keys definitely is. And one way you can get these files is by dumping them from your Switch, and there is a guide on how to do this on the Ryujinx Setup page. I'll put the link on the description, of the video, so head over here and learn how to do that. You also gonna need the firmware from the Switch, and on the same page there is a guide on how you can do that as well. Depending on how you got the firmware, it can come as a zip file like the one that I have here with me, or as a file on the XCI format. Both of them will work just fine for this emulator. So now you're gonna go back to the emulator, you're gonna click here on Tools, and then select Install Firmware, and click on Install Firmware from XCI or Zip. You're gonna navigate to the folder where the firmware is, whether it's a zip file or XCI. So you just have to double click on it. And because I installed the firmware before, I'm getting this screen, but you should see one here that says, do you want to install the firmware and stuff like that? So just go ahead and click on yes. Should only take a few seconds, and then you're gonna have your firmware in place. Unlike the prod keys, however, you don't necessarily need to have the latest version of the firmware in order to play your games. But if you are dumping them from your Switch, it's likely you already have the latest version of the firmware, right? But either way, it's gonna work just fine. And now click on OK. To add your games, first we need to select the location where you want the emulator to scan for games. And back on the emulator folder, here on the portable, you're gonna see this games folder right here that was already created by the emulator. And this would be a good location to drop your games, but of course, it can also be anywhere on your PC. So now go back to the emulator, you're gonna click on Options, and then select the Settings right here. This window will show up, and on the first tab, User Interface, here on Game Directories, you're gonna click on Add here and select the folder where your games are. So now you just need to navigate to the games folder of your emulator right here on Publish, Portable, and then click on the games folder once, and then click on Select Folders. Now just hit Apply and then OK, and your games are gonna show up right here. This emulator can play games on the NSP and the XCI format, which are the most common formats out there. Now I'm gonna show you the settings of this emulator and what you can do to make your games look even better. The default settings of the emulator will work fine for most games out there, but it is a good idea, and I would definitely recommend that you check the game compatibility page of Ryujinx. In here, you can check the status for a lot of games on the emulator, if they're playable, if there are issues, and what you could do to fix that so you can get better performance and stability. And also, there is the troubleshooting section as well, where you can see game-specific errors that are currently happening with the emulator and what you could do to fix them as well. So again, definitely recommend that you do this before starting your games. But either way, back on the emulator, you're gonna click on Options again, and then select the Settings once more. Now on this window, we've already been to User Interface, but there's some settings here that you might want to change depending on your liking. We already set the game directory here, but you can add more as well. It does not have to be a single location, so you can just click on Add and keep selecting them. But now we're gonna head over to Input here, because this is where we can configure the controller. And this emulator supports pretty much all the controllers out there from PlayStation and Xbox, and even third-party controllers too. And you can play with a keyboard as well. And it has an automatic mapping function, which means that you just have to plug in your controller and select the input device right here. So if you haven't done that yet, go ahead and do that right now. And when you do, you're gonna click here on All Keyboards, and you should see your controller right here. In my case, I'm using a Xbox controller, so if you just click on this one, it will do the setup for me. And by default, it uses the Joy-Con controllers here, but you can change the type as well to a Pro controller, for example, or just the left or the right Joy-Con. But if you're using a controller, obviously it's best that you set this to the Pro controller configuration from the Switch. And that's pretty much all you gotta do here. If you want to enable rumble support as well, if your controller supports that, you can do that here and select the dead zone of the sticks as well. And you can also change individual inputs as well. You just have to click on the button here you want to change, and then press the respective button on your controller. Pretty intuitive and easy to use, right? So now here on keyboard hotkeys, there's already some settings here that are selected, like screenshot and pause the emulation. You can change these ones as well here, depending to your liking. Now let's move over to system here. And on this one, we have settings like the system region of the emulator if you want to change the language as well. There's a bunch of them supported here. And on this one, the one setting I want you to pay attention is the VSync right here. VSync, as you probably know, is a setting that prevents the screen tearing on a lot of PC games and emulator as well. But here on the Switch emulator, the VSync is essentially a frame limiter, which will prevent the FPS from going higher than what it should, which in some games it will make the game play faster than what it should, but in other games this will unlock the frame rate so you can play at 120 FPS or even higher than that. But there are cheats for this emulator that will unlock the frame rate of a game without speeding it up or breaking the physics. I'm gonna get into that later on in the video, but for now, keep the VSync on because you can also turn this option on and off in-game by using your mouse. And that's pretty much it for the system, don't change anything else. Now let's head over here to the CPU, and on this one, keep everything on default unless the game requires you to turn off something like PPTC option here, and also the CPU mode as well. Now let's head over to the graphics tab, and on the first option, graphics backend, make sure that you select Vulkan right here. You also have the option for OpenGL, but this one is only if your PC does not support Vulkan. The Vulkan API is much better at handling the shader compilation that this emulator do. And this is something that's gonna happen when you play your game for the first time. It's basically loading assets off your game, and the Vulkan API handles this much better than OpenGL because every time it is loading these assets, the game stutters a little bit. And the better your PC is, the less stutter you're gonna have while playing your game here. You can still play games on OpenGL, but the performance will be much worse compared to Vulkan. On preferred GPU, this is obviously your main GPU that you want the emulator to use in case you have a dual GPU setup, that is. So just make sure you're using your main one right here. On features and enhancements, keep the shader cache and macro turned on here unless the game you're playing has some sort of error, and it is recommended to turn them on off. And for texture recompression, this should only be used if the game you're playing is using a lot of your video card memory. And they list here some of the games that can benefit from using this option. But they also warn here that graphics cards with 4 GB of memory or less will likely crash at some point while running these games. So it should only be used if you're running out of video memory like it says. Now on resolution scale, this is self-explanatory. You can increase the resolution of your game right here from the native 720p or 1080p depending on the game all the way to 4 times the native resolution. By doing so, your games are going to look much better, but it's going to require more of your PC. So you should start by playing your game on native resolution, and if the performance is okay, you can try increasing this one to see if your computer can handle that. Now here on anti-aliasing, I personally don't like using this one for this emulator because I think the image looks a little blurry even when using the SMAA options in here. So this one is gonna be up to you. You can try using SMAA low and see how the image will look, but I personally like keeping this one at none here. For the scaling filter, this one works in conjunction with the resolution scale. That is, if you do increase the resolution, this filter will come in and help the image look better. And if you're playing a 3D game, it's better if you use bilinear right here. But if it is a 2D or pixel art game, it's better that you use nearest option right here. You also have FSR here that will make the image look sharper, and you can also use this slider here to select the amount of sharpness you want your game to look here. But essentially, if you're playing a 3D game, keep this one at native bilinear or nearest if it is a 2D or pixel art game. The anisotropic filtering will improve the look of textures when you are viewing them from different angles, and it is a good little improvement you can do to your game, and it has minimal impact on performance. So for this one, I would recommend that you change this to 16x. On the aspect ratio, by default, it's set to 16:9, but you can also change this to 32:9, for example, or ultra-wide aspect ratios. And there are some games that have cheats that will give you proper ultra-wide support as well, but this is going to depend on the game you are applying these cheats, so don't change this one right here. And for graphics backend, it's best that you set this one to auto here, because the emulator will tell if your GPU can support this or not. But this option here is essentially for helping the shader compilation that I talked about before here on graphics backend. Now here on the audio tab, you don't have to change anything here unless you know what you're doing. The default settings will work just as fine. We also have the network settings here. You can play online on this emulator, but I'm not gonna be covering that on this video. Let me know if you want a video of that in the comments too. And also the logging, don't change anything here. And with that, we're pretty much done here with the settings. So go ahead and click on apply and then OK. To import save files, first we need to go to the location where the emulator stores save data. And you can do that by simply right-clicking your game here and then select Open User Save Directory. By just clicking on this option, it should take you to the folder where the save files are gonna be. Whether you are importing them from your Switch or downloading from the internet, you're gonna drop all the save files right here. One place where you can find save files is the emulator official Discord right here. I'm gonna put the link on the description of the video. And here there's this channel called Mods Cheat List, and here you just have to type the name of the game you're trying to look for saves here, and in some of them you're gonna find a save file somewhere in here. That's currently the only place that I know of where you can get save files, but if you know another one, let me know on the comment section and I'll add that to the description of the video. Now to update your game, you're gonna once again right click the game, you want to apply the patch, but this time you're gonna click on Manage Title Updates. And if you already have the update file with you, you're just gonna click here on Add and navigate to the folder where the update is. It is a NSP file like this one. There's only one update for Donkey Kong right here. So you can just double click on this one and the update will appear here. So now just make sure that the update is highlighted here and then click on Save. And you should see the game version right here. And you can easily manage your game updates right here by just selecting the no update or another patch that the game might have here. This is useful because there might be a mod or a cheat that you want to add to your game that will only work with a specific version of the game right here. For installing DLCs, the process is very similar too. Right click on the game and then select Manage DLC, and on this window you're gonna click here on Add and navigate to the folder where your DLC files are gonna be. It is usually a NSP file like this one. I have a couple of DLC here for Smash, so you can just highlight both of them with your mouse and then click on Open and they're gonna appear right here. And you can also manage the DLCs you want the game to run whenever you boot the game here. By just clicking on them, if you see this little blue line here, that means the DLC is on and the next time you start the game, they're gonna be there. And this is also where you can delete them as well. So now just hit save and they are ready. Now for adding cheats to your game, that is stuff like 60 FPS, ultra wide support, optimization cheats and stuff like that, I'm gonna need you to pay attention here because this can get a bit complicated. On your game here, you're gonna click again with the right button and you're gonna select here the Open Mods Directory option. It will take you to a folder like this one that it's empty. So on this window, you're gonna click with the right button, select New, and then Folder. The name of this folder is gonna be Cheats, exactly like this. So now you're gonna double click on the Cheats folder, and this is where you're gonna be placing the TXT cheat files. And as you probably guessed already, one place where you can get cheats is the emulator Discord server right here. The link will be on the description, but there's also another place where you can find them too. right here on the Game Banana website. You can also get mods for this emulator on this website, but for the cheats, I had better luck finding them here on the Ryujinx Discord. So here on the mods cheat list channel, you're just gonna type the name of the game you're looking out for cheats. I found this one here for Donkey Kong, and you're gonna notice right here, and you have to pay attention to this one. For the cheat to work, it has to be for the same version as your game. Back there, you saw that I got the update for Donkey Kong, right? So the game is now on version 1.0.2. And back here on the Discord, you can see that I have the same cheat right here, this ultra wide, and we have one for the vanilla version of the game and for the updated version. So make sure that the cheat is on the same version as your game. In this case, I'm gonna get this cheat here as an example, so you can go ahead and click here or click on the download button to download the cheat file. And you're gonna download this file to the cheats folder here of your game. If the one you got is a zip file, you have to extract from it, and you can use WinRAR or 7-zip to do that. That's gonna be up to you. But the file we need in here is this text file right here, but it's not ready yet. We have to do a modification. But first, extract this file from the zip folder, and you can go ahead and delete the original one. But we have to do a couple of modifications here for this to work. If the file you got is on this format right here, we have to change this because the cheat has to be on the .txt format in order for it to work. And we can do that right here on this window. You're gonna click here on View, and if you don't have file name extensions enabled here, go ahead and do this right now. By doing so, you can see the file name extension here. So what you're gonna do here is right click on this file, select rename, and you're gonna erase this PCH from the text right here. Just go ahead and delete it so that it looks like this, the name.txt. Then you're gonna press enter. You're gonna see this window saying that by renaming this, it may make the file unusable. Don't matter, click on OK. And there you go. This is now a proper TXT file. Now we have to rename the file name itself, and the new name has to be the file ID of your game. And you can get that on the emulator right here. So on the game you are applying the cheat, click on it with the right button, but this time you're gonna click here on Manage Cheats. This window will show up, and the file name needs to be this build ID. So you're gonna highlight everything, press and hold the left button on your mouse, then just right click on this, select copy. Now go back to the folder where the TXT file is, and you're gonna rename this to the file ID. So once again, click on the file with the right button, select rename, and just press Ctrl V on your keyboard like this. Now press enter, and finally the cheat is ready. You can confirm that the cheat is working by going back to the emulator, close this window, right click the game once again, and then select Manage Cheats, and you should see it right here. Now you just have to tick this little box to make the patch work. If you have a lot of cheats in here and you want to label them, you can do that on the text file from before. So go back to that folder right here, and you can do that by simply editing this text file here. So just double click on this one to open with the notepad, and depending on how you got your cheat, you might have a lot of information right here, but the only part that matters for this to work is this set of numbers and letters right here. For this cheat that I got, there's only one line right here, but there might be a code that has 2 or even more than that. But this is the only part that matters here. I'm gonna delete everything here that's not part of the actual cheat here, just to show you how to label them. So to give it a name, here on the top of the cheat itself, you're gonna start by pressing the open bracket key on your keyboard, and you can just type the name that you want this cheat to be, and this can be anything that you want. I'm just gonna give it a example right here. Once you finish typing, close the bracket, and it should look something very similar to this. So now you just have to press Ctrl S to save this, or you can click on File and then Save, and you can close this. And now back on the emulator, if I click on Manage Cheats once again, you can see that it's now named after what I type. So now it's just a matter of activating them here, click on Save, and it's ready for the next time you start the game. For mods specifically, that is texture replacement, custom levels, stuff like that, I think you're gonna have better luck on the Game Banana website here. So you can start by typing the name of the game you want to find mods to. I'm gonna use this one as an example, the Green Hill Zone mod for Mario Kart 8. And here somewhere on the page, you should see a section that says Files. So you're gonna click on this one and get the main file or the necessary files for this mod. This one is gonna depend on the game, of course, and you also have to pay attention that some games might require the game version to be a specific one in order for it to work. So I'm gonna start by grabbing this one. So I think most mods out there will come as a zip file because the format that works for the emulator is having the files inside a folder like this one. You just need this folder for it to work. So I'm gonna start by extracting this one, and inside you're gonna see some files in here, but you just need the mod in a folder format like this one. The emulator can read that. So now go back to the emulator, right click the game you want to apply the mod, and then select Manage Mods. This window will show up again. So now you just have to click on Add, navigate to the location where the mod folder is, just click on it once, and then click on Select Folder. And just like that, it will appear right here. And from this window, once again, you can manage your mods. If you want to have them enabled or not, that's gonna be up to you. Now, just click on Save, and they're ready to be played as soon as you start the game once again. Now it's just a matter of starting the game. So double click on it. You should see a loading screen like this one. Wait until it's finished and you can start playing. If you want to disable VSync or any other of the couple of options available here, you just have to click on the name. If it's red, then VSync is off and the frame rate goes unlocked here. You can also change the aspect ratio and volume as well, but mostly the in-game VSync option that I talked about before. I have many videos like this on the channel covering how to install and play games on PC with the best settings for performance and graphics, so if you like what you saw, don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, and as always, I'll see you soon.